Hakuna Matata, I'm so unbothered. Welcome back to Girl Boss. I'm Zanem Vula, and today we're actually gonna talk about something a little bit fun for me because there's a lot of things going on around this whole Black is King situation. I was a little bit late watching it, but eventually when I made the time to watch it, it felt like a transformative experience just for the energy of the time that we're in. This is one of the most public figures in the world. This is a signifier of somebody who has nothing left to prove. She's just about leaving a legacy. The directory that she dropped of 1,000 Black-owned businesses to support as an alternative to, a lot of the white businesses that we support, because we talk about supporting Black business all the time. This is leadership. Also, reparations for the way that the Lion King exploited African artists. The original song was written by a South African artist and he got no credit for it. It made millions of dollars for Disney and he was never paid and he was never acknowledged as the original artist. In Black is King, Beyonce used the original version of the song made by the original artist to make sure that he got credits for that song in Black is King, and so proceeds to that go to his family. And that's what we need to be about as Black people. Like, instead of talking about how we need to support Black businesses, we need to actually just do it. This whole cultural appropriation conversation that Beyonce is appropriating African culture to make money, that's not true for various reasons. She empowered so many African artists, from actors to designers to dancers, choreographers, musicians. This is a Black project where she also empowered a lot of Black-owned businesses. I do see a lot of skill in terms of her vocal range. She's reached a point of total control of her voice as well. A lot of people are very reluctant to give Beyonce props for her vocal performance and her vocal ability. The reason that a lot of people don't want to give Beyonce the credit that she deserves is because she's light-skinned, especially when it comes to this whole African discussion and her getting into African culture, choosing to embody this Black power message and this Black power image and this Black power movement, and choosing to be a symbol of that and choosing to be an embodiment of it. A lot of people are having a hard time with associating her with Black because she's light-skinned, but she was born that way. There's nothing that she can do about it. I don't even want to get into defending her Blackness because Beyonce is Black. You can't be threatened by somebody else's Blackness because it's different to yours. And we can't be marginalizing each other as Black people. I believe that Black is King is to us as adults what the Lion King was to us as children, and the lessons that we may not have been able to extract from the Lion King as children, we can now extract from Black is King. So the whole theme of this movie is ultimately know thyself. This project is the most polarizing project. This is the time for a project like this from a person like this, despite how you may feel about her. So ultimately, it's know thyself. It's going back to your African roots, to remember who you are and tap into your power. Portraying the beauty of Africa, represented by those who live the experience on a day-to-day basis. It was an opportunity for them to put themselves within the narrative of the Lion King and translate that message of what the Lion King actually means as an African story, because the Lion King is an African story. The story of the Lion King ultimately is the story of Asa, Osset, and Heru, the ancient African gods. Beyonce in Black is King embodies Osset, who is the mother. In Greek mythology, we know her as Osiris or Isis. The story of divinity and the story of our gods is translated into different languages, different terms, different words. A lot of the depictions of her will be translated into different female deities. In Yoruba culture, there's so many of them. Throughout the film, she literally recreates the images as an education of our ancient African deities. There's a very clear depth of research that went into that project. Black is King is an educational piece of art. The all-white garments are very specific to specific expressions of African spirituality. Rituals are done in the ocean, rituals that signify and that represent rebirth, initiations that take place in the ocean. It feels like a piece of music that's very specifically dedicated to her children, about leaving a legacy. The stars represent the measurement of time that our ancestors observed. Astrology originates from ancient Kemet. Everything that the Greeks and the Romans discovered about astrology they learned from ancient Kemet, and they changed a lot of the names. The stars to us and to our ancestors play such a significant role in our existence. That's how they built the pyramids, and they are the ones that gave us the foundation for what we know today as our zodiac signs. They built the pyramids in alignment with Orion's belt. A lot of the structure, a lot of the architecture was in alignment with the stars, with the movement of the stars. So they were able to use that to track time, to know also when things would happen, because that was like the clock for them. And that was their guidance. So the stars guided them. The way that celestial beings were depicted. I like the incorporation of indigenous languages throughout the project, because it also, if you enjoy the music, it encourages you to actually look up what those things mean. Burna Boy is like super mad conscious, dude. One of my favorite pieces of art that I discovered from him was his music video, Another Story, and I really highly recommend that everybody check it out. It is an education and it is beautiful. The Nile obviously represents the source of life. It is like the spinal cord of the African continent. The Nile video is a reenactment of the mummification process, which is really cool. The mummification process was very sacred to our ancestors. Mummification was done for so many different reasons. Definitely check out the Power of Melanin video, because I cover some of that as well if you want a little bit of context on that whole mummification process. It's such a beautiful visual representation of the mummification process. I was so impressed and I just want to watch it over and over. It's so beautiful. The level of success that is portrayed in that imagery, that I felt personally inspired to, build my own empire. Like, she really shows you that as a Black people, it is possible to get to that place. And I love how Pharrell, he switched up his pronunciation of certain words to kind of fit the African style of singing. It's so cute. I love Pharrell. I love everything he does. I love just the way that they honored African culture, and like the African way of doing things is so cool. Like the African way of creation and creating music. I think they did a really good job of merging African music with African American music, creating this genre that we can all jam to together. If you don't like Brown Skin Girl, something is wrong with you. If you hear it and you don't like it, I don't want to be around you. I really don't. The artistry behind Wizkid sounds so beautiful, and I've never been disappointed by Wizkid. The song is so empowering to Black women of all complexions. It was quite a trigger for me. I really enjoyed the song and the visuals. Like, the music video is so beautiful. It's so beautiful. That was me watching Brown Skin Girl. It was such an emotional experience, and it's triggering for so many different reasons. Brown Skin Girl is a song that I will be playing for my daughters. That movie is a movie that my children will be watching. I think it's so important for our kids. I think like our kids are going to grow up at least with an opportunity to think differently and to see themselves differently, because of the way that their image is presented to them in mainstream media, because of films like this and because of music like this. The generational impact that this project will have, it carries a vibration of love. Beyonce actually saw an opportunity to put something in that's going to empower young African women. The whole Lion King story is about each individual African, because we are of royalty. We are of royal blood. Every single African person is connected to a royal lineage. So we need to understand that about ourselves. We don't believe that at all about ourselves. That is the biggest cancer to the African nation around the world, is that we don't understand the royalty that is in our blood. And that's my favorite quote from the movie, when Burna Boy says, our brothers and sisters walk around with crowns in their back pockets because of the environment of oppression that we live in, because we are so stuck in this condition. All of it is like a guide. It's a guide to know thyself. It's a message that is peppered throughout the project. And I feel like it was a brief, because every single artist is echoing that same message in these people's faces about who they are, about their royal blood, about their ancestry, and about their kingship. We have Rafiki in the film, the mysterious blue man man that appears throughout the whole beginning of the movie. He represents Rafiki, who represents the spiritual guide that each African person has. Every African person has a spirit guide. I'm not going to say that other people don't. I'm not speaking for any other person other than the African person. Every African person has a spiritual guide, a spirit guide that is specifically assigned to you, and it is often an ancestor. She basically touches on how it is that we're guided by our ancestors. So when we look at spirit guides, our spirit guides are often an ancestor or several ancestors of ours. He does not impose on the journey. He allows Simba to go through the suffering that he needs to go through before it gets to the point where it is time for him to heed his higher calling. Already is such a dope way to bring in that message of remember who you are the king. The choreography is lit. I can't get enough of that video. Like, I watch it every opportunity I get. It's so dope. Like, the visuals are beautiful. The spirit guides are represented by the blue people, how they're adorned in cowrie shells. That is the spiritual currency. It's still currency in some parts of Africa. It's something that we revere as the currency of our ancestors. It connects us to the ocean, to the water. It is a signifier of a spiritual wealth. Other side is frame by frame. That first part of the scene where she's putting the basket in the river is frame by frame the scene from the Prince of Egypt putting Moses in the river. It was able to transform a story that demonized us into a story that actually reveals the glory of African culture and African spirituality, and reminding us of the belief of our ancestors that they do not die, the energy continues, and that's why we can communicate with them still to this day. We have communication modalities that we use to communicate with our ancestors. The energy doesn't die, it continues. The other side is obviously when Simba speaks to his father, and that is his communication with his father, an ancestor of his. The nature and the reason for tapping into ancestral energy and communicating with your ancestors, because it empowers you, because they bring messages that remind you who you are. The reason that we communicate with our ancestors is for support and guidance, and that is what Mufasa provides as an ancestor, provides to Simba. And then we have Spirit, the finale. I love the way they did it in Black is King. The acoustic choir, a nod to the spiritual expression of Africans in the church context, in the church environment, because a lot of our spirituality is expressed through church, because for a long time we had no choice, we were forced, and then now we do it by choice. We've always been spiritual by nature, and even in church we are more spiritual than you will see white people in church. Our expression of spirituality is so much more heightened, it's so much more expressive than it is if you go to a white church and you go to a black church. There's a clear difference. It's not even an opinion. We brought spirituality to Christianity. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And let me know what you liked about it, what you didn't like about it, what part of it impacted you the most. I want to know how it resonated with people and what it is that I may have missed that you identified. Like, I know I forgot to talk about the different hairstyles that she did that represent different tribes. There are a lot of things that I can already think now that I forgot to touch on. Lots of love and light. Lots of love and light to you and yours. Thank you for watching.